Yes.
မင်္ဂလာပါ
Good
ဆရာ
afternoon. Yes. Could you hear me and could you see the PowerPoint slide that I am currently sharing?
ထင်ပါဗျာထင်ပါ
Yeah, long time no see. Today we are going to discuss dukkha as reflected in early Buddhist teaching and Theravada Buddhism. Today we are going to discuss two main ideas. The first one is dukkha in two doctrinal contexts. Two doctrinal contexts mean the dukkha as reflected in the Four Noble Truths and the dukkha as depicted in Tilakkhana, three characteristics. And then we are going to discuss the three characteristics, whether the liberation realized through one own characteristic or as a simultaneous or as together. We are going to investigate it. These are two main ideas. Okay. If you cannot clearly hear what I am discussing, please let me know. And then if you cannot see the PowerPoint slide, please reach out. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Are you ready to discuss? Yeah, here are 63 students.
မှန်ပါဗျာ
Thank you very much, Mr. Somas. Okay. Now let's discuss it. The term dukkha in Pali is translated in different English terms and by different scholars, such as sufferings, sorrow, and pain and misery. The dukkha can be understood at the opposite meaning of sukha, happiness, or comfort, or ease. Therefore, the dukkha's sufferings and sukha, happiness are opposite to each other. Okay. However, in terms of the Four Noble Truths or in terms of the Buddhist teaching, the term suffering does not adequately have the same meaning with the term dukkha, because the term dukkha, as discovered in the Buddhist teaching, has subtle meaning and have profound meanings. Therefore, if we would like to translate the term dukkha as sufferings, there may be some issue about the understanding of the Buddhist teaching. For example, some people or some people may understand that the Buddhist teaching is pessimistic. The Buddhist teaching of Buddhism look at from only the negative perspectives. Yeah, therefore, we need to be aware of that. If we would like to translate the term dukkha as sufferings, as sorrow, misery, or pain, there may be some issue. However, in order to understand, some several scholars have already attempted to translate the term the term dukkha into a different meaning. However, the translation of dukkha into English, like suffering, pain, or sorrow, or misery, are not adequately similar to the meaning of dukkha as depicted in the Buddhist teaching. Therefore, some scholars, such as Venerable Wapola Rahula, argue that the term dukkha should be carved or should be loved without translating into English. The reason is that dukkha has a connotation and that it has a different meaning it has a profound meaning, and it is the meaning of dukkha is very subtle in the Buddhist teaching. Additionally, if we translate the term dukkha as sufferings, there may be some unintentional meaning and direct meaning that the Buddhist teaching look at the people or the world or the human beings as sufferings. Therefore, Buddhism is pessimistic. They may misunderstand. Okay, therefore, now we need to understand that the term dukkha as depicted in the Buddhist teaching or the Theravada tradition or early Buddhist teaching has a connotation. It is very deep and profound, and it is very subtle to understand. Okay? In Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha in early Buddhist teaching, of the Buddhist teaching can be summarized or can be concluded into two main ideas. They are sufferings and the cessation of suffering. In that Sutta, the Buddha explained that he only teach only two things. The first one is dukkha, sufferings, and the last one is the cessation of sufferings. Therefore, if we would like to look at the Buddhist teaching from these two angles, we can understand that of the Buddhist teaching can be summarized or can be included into suffering, dukkha, and the cessation of sufferings. Okay, therefore, the meaning of dukkha in early Buddhist teaching is very important. And then dukkha is one of the Four Noble Truths. And additionally, in terms of this sutta, we can understand that of the Buddhist teaching can be concluded or can be summarized into two main ideas. They are sufferings and the cessation of sufferings. Therefore, dukkha in early Buddhist teaching is very significant. Okay? If you have any question, please raise your hand or ask anytime. Okay? And then if you don't understand, maybe due to the internet connection or maybe because of some reason, please let me repeat that. Okay? Therefore, dukkha in early Buddhist teaching is one of the whole teachings of the Buddhists. Therefore, if we would like to understand the Buddhist teaching properly, deeply, and profoundly, it is impossible without understanding sufferings or without understanding dukkha. Therefore, dukkha in early Buddhist teaching is very important. Additionally, if we go to the dependent co-origination, I do believe that our professor have already discussed the dependent co-origination. If we analyze this, the dependent co-origination, paticca samuppada, it has two layers or two ideas. The first one, two orders. The first one is regular orders, anuloma. The second one is reversed orders, patiloma. Therefore, paticca samuppada can be understood in two different ideas, that they are regular orders and reverse order. If we carefully analyze the regular order of paticca samuppada, the anuloma of the paticca samuppada, we can understand that regular order of the paticca samuppada explains sufferings. And then on the other side, the second one, which is the reverse order of the dependent coordination, explain the cessation of sufferings. The Paticca Samuppada is the central teachings of the Buddhists. It consists of two different orders. They are regular orders and reverse orders. Regular orders explain sufferings. The reversed orders, the Priloma, explains the cessation of sufferings. Therefore, if we look at or if we analyze or investigate early Buddhist teaching, we can understand that the Buddhists taught only two main ideas, two main things. They are dukkha and dukkhinsa, dukkha nirodhinsa, sufferings and the cessation of sufferings. These two fundamental teachings are directly relevant to the dependent coordination, which is the central teaching of the Buddhists, Paticca Samuppada. And then, if we go to the Four Noble Truths, we can please recall, what are the first Noble Truth, and there are 12 or 30 different elements in the first Noble Truth. One is Sankhetena Pinchubhara Nakanda Dukkha. In brief, the clinging of the five aggregate of grasping are sufferings. The five aggregate are nothing but the beings. Therefore, in accordance with the Buddhist teaching, being like you and us, you and I are also included in terms of sufferings, in terms of dukkha. Therefore, dukkha in early Buddhist teaching is very significant for Buddhist soteriology, liberation from sufferings, or in order to live peacefully and happily, or in order to understand the Buddhist teaching deeply and profoundly. It is impossible without understanding sufferings, because suffering is one of the central teachings of the Buddhists. Could you understand?
Yes, Tema, we
မှန်
understand.
ပါဗျာ
Okay. Okay.
understand
If
sir
so, let's go to Gautamaka Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya. In this suttas, the Buddhas explain, in this sutta, the Buddha explained that before he became the Buddhist, like a bodhisattva, who would be the Buddhist, the Prem Siddhartha, he understands that, the world has fallen into trouble. And then we are born again and again, and then we grow up, and then we die. It passes away, and then we reborn again and again. Life is sufferings. In this way, he look at his life, or he look at the world as a suffering. Additionally, because of that understanding, the Bodhisattva, the Prince Siddhartha, search for enlightenment, and then renounce the sensual pleasure. And then he became an ascetic samana. In this way, we can understand that on the basis of Gautamaka Sutta, we can conclude, or we can understand that sufferings motivated the Prince Siddhartha to search for liberation. Okay, therefore, without sufferings, it is impossible to occur liberation or enlightenment of the Buddhist teaching. Therefore, suffering is very important in order to realize. Even the Prince Siddhartha was motivated by sufferings to search for liberation. Okay, Therefore, suffering is important in early Buddhist teaching. Could you follow me?
Yes, Shimpia. Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's keep on discussion. Yeah, this statements clear what was behind the Prince Siddhartha's motives to renounce his worldly pleasure and embark on a journey as a seeker of that which is wholesome. Yeah, kusala dhamma. Therefore, we can understand this soda, this Gautama soda, that the Prince Siddhartha was motivated to renounce his worldly pleasure and to embark on a journey as a seeker of enlightenment or liberation. Therefore, suffering is a drastic change. Suffering motivated the Prince Siddhartha, and then it transformed the Siddhartha's life from worldly people to enlightened person. Therefore, suffering is a drastic change in the life of the Buddhists, in the life of Prince Siddhartha. Additionally, the crucial significance of the perception of deep-rooted and satisfactoriness in human existence is motivating Siddhartha to undertake his search for liberation. As we have already discussed, the sufferings motivated the Prince Siddhartha. Because of that sufferings, the Prince Siddhartha renounce his worldly pleasure or happiness, or worldly pleasure, and then he embarked on his spiritual journeys. Therefore, suffering motivated the Prince Siddhartha for liberation. Suffering characterized by, therefore, if we go to the first noblitude as reflected in, as depicted in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya or Vinaya Pitaka, we can see that birth, decay, death consist of sufferings. Therefore, suffering plays a significant role. Sufferings or dukkha plays a significant role in the Buddhist teaching or Buddhist liberation from suffering or Buddhist soteriology. And then this is just to one metaphor, or to recall the previous discussion. In the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the list of suffering has been explained. But if we look at that Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta of the other Sutta, we can understand that the term suffering is not, the term dukkha is not defined, but only the list of dukkha has been explained. Yeah. Therefore, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, it has been explored that birth is suffering and so forth. And then, in accordance with the Buddhist teaching, or in accordance with the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, suffering has to be understood. Suffering is not needed to eradicate. Yeah. Therefore, suffering or dukkha plays a significant role of liberation by means of understanding what it is as they are, by means of understanding. We don't need to try to eradicate sufferings or to overcome suffering, but the Buddhists encourage us to understand or to realize what it is as they are. Okay, therefore, suffering is very important in Buddhist soteriology. Okay, this is the summary of the sufferings. as depicted in the Theravada tradition or the Buddhist teaching. In the Samyutta Nikaya, there are 13 lists of sufferings, but in the Vinaya Bhashya, the 4 elements, they are number 6, number 7, number 6 are Prideva, Dukkha, Domanassa, and Upayada, does not include in the Vinaya Pitaka. And then in the Vibhinga Pali consider a similar list, but the 10 Vyadi does not include in the Vibhinga Pali. But in Samyutta Nikaya, the 13 list of suffering has been explored. Therefore, the list of sufferings or the list of dukkha may be different in different texts of the Buddhist teaching. Okay. However, as we have already discussed in Visuddhimagga, there are only 12 lists of sufferings, 12 lists of dukkha. Okay, these are the just summary for you to understand the different lists of sufferings as appear, as occur in the Buddhist texts, in Theravada Buddhist texts, in Theravada Pali Canon and exegetical literatures. Okay. As we have already discussed, if we analyze the Dhammacakka Buddhana Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, that suffering can be categorized into 3 different divisions. They are psychological suffering, physical suffering, psychological suffering, and existential sufferings. Okay. Yeah, physical suffering are birth, old age, and so forth. And then psychological sufferings are relevant to our interpretation, our emotion, are relevant to our feeling, to the sufferings. Okay, the last one, which is the ontological or existential suffering, is the clinging aggregate. Okay, or unholding aggregate are ontological sufferings. Therefore, sufferings as depicted in Dhammacakka Buddhana Sutta can be categorized into 3 divisions. They are psychological suffering, physical suffering, and ontological or existential sufferings. In the Nibedika Sutta of Anguttara Nikaya, suffering has been categorized into different layers or into different position or into different categories. Yeah, in that Sutta, the Buddha explained that suffering is extreme sufferings. There is slight sufferings. There is suffering that fade away slowly. Sometimes the suffering that we are experiencing fade away slowly. However, sometimes the sufferings or dukkha that we are experiencing fade away quickly. Therefore, suffering has been understood based on their excesses or their different degrees in terms of the Nibedika Sutta. Yeah, in the Singgasana Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, it is explained that this is the noble truth of suffering such as has been made known by me. Yeah, in that Sutta, the Buddha explained that suffering or dukkha is innumerable, or it has connotation. It is not easy to understand, and that it is innumerable details, and that it is innumerable implication. Yeah, therefore, the Buddha states that suffering is one with many nuisance and details and implication. Yeah, suffering in the Buddhist teaching cannot be something what we normally think is to be. Yeah, suffering that we normally understand is slightly different from suffering or dukkha as depicted in the Buddhist teaching. Therefore, sometimes we misunderstand that the Buddhist teaching is or Buddhism is pessimistic because the differences, the understanding between the Buddhist teaching and the worldly people, what we understand are not the same. Yeah. Therefore, what we normally, if we think that suffering as depicted in the Buddhist teaching and suffering what the ordinary people understand are the same, we can easily realize and liberate from suffering. Therefore, suffering or dukkha as depicted in the Buddhist teaching are not the same with the understanding of worldly people or Puthujjana. Okay? Therefore, in terms of the Buddhist teaching, suffering is nuisance and details and implication. However, the 10 dukkha as the 4 noble truths which represent the Buddhist view of light and the Buddhist view of the world has a deeper philosophical meaning and connote in numerously wider senses. Therefore, if we go to the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya or in the Vinaya Pitaka, we can understand that the list of suffering as described in that sutta is slightly different from our general understanding. Therein, we can normally understand that. We can normally assume or we can easily accept that death is suffering, birth is suffering, ages is suffering. It is easy to accept. And then what we want, yeah, for example, I want something pleasure, but I receive only sufferings. I receive only unpleasurable things. This is also suffering. Yeah, this is easy to accept. However, the last one, which is the 5 clinging aggregate or 5 holdings aggregate is suffering, is not easy to accept by the worldly people. It has deeper meaning. It has profound meaning. Therefore, when we compare dukkha in the 4 noble truths to the second one, this experience is so basic and universal that Buddhism point out that all worldly beings in their day-to-day activities of life are bound to undergo, to experience on different occasions, due to different causes, in varying degrees and forms. If we go to the 4 noble truths, craving, as we have already discussed, craving is the origin or the cause of sufferings. And then, even in our day-to-day life, we can understand that how craving caused sufferings. Yeah, how the craving takes or plays a significant role of causing sufferings. For example, I would like to get something a pleasure, or for example, we love our parents, but they are also impermanent, and then one day they have to pass away. Yeah, we also have to pass away. We have to depart. Yeah, even though we may not have, we may not have willingness. We have to depart from one another. If so, because of the craving, because of our love, because of the adorable love, we feel sufferings when some of our beloveds pass away. Therefore, we can understand that how craving plays a significant role of the cause of sufferings, the origin of suffering. And then we can understand the connection or the correlation, the relationship between suffering and craving, which is the cause of sufferings. Therefore, universally, we can accept that craving causes sufferings, and then there are also some, due to some extent, we can or orderly people can accept that is suffering, birth is suffering, ages are also suffering. We can partially understand and accept as a worldly people. However, if we go to the last one, or if we go to the deeper level, it is not easy to understand Buddhist understanding of suffering. For example, Sanketena Pinchubara Nakanda Dukkha. Sanketena B Pinchubara Nakanda Dukkha. Yeah. In brief, the five clinging aggregate or the five holding aggregate are suffering. It is not easy to accept as a worldly people because we love who we are and then we crave for ourselves. Therefore, it is not easy to accept the clinging five aggregate are sufferings. Therefore, here we can understand that the suffering as or dukkha as reflected in the Buddhist teaching is different from the understanding of worldly people. Okay? Dukkha, as presented by the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, consists of universally prevent existence of physical and mental suffering of varying degree, found to final summing up of the whole obsession in a philosophical manner. As I have already discussed, to some extent, as a worldly people, we can accept that, that or rebut again and again is suffering for our life. However, we love who we are. Therefore, in terms of the clinging pi aggregate or the holding pi aggregate, it is not easy for us to accept the holding pi aggregate are sufferings. Okay, obviously, emphasis is more on apparent ordinary existence of dukkha. This is quite understandable when we want the background and context in which the discourse are presented are taken into account. Therefore, if we look at the early discourses and on the basis of different contexts, we can understand, or it is easy to understand what is sufferings, what is the cause of sufferings. However, as a worldly people, or generally speaking, our understanding as a worldly people of suffering or dukkha is not the same with the understanding of early Buddhist teaching, of the Buddhist teaching. There is some differences between Buddhist understanding of suffering and our understanding of sufferings. Our understanding means the understanding of worldly people. Yeah. As a worldly people, it is not easy to observe the five clinging pi aggregate or the holding pi aggregate are sufferings. It is not easy to accept for us. Okay, therefore, dukkha has the broadest meaning, the deep meaning, the profound meaning. Yeah, in the first noble truth, the first noble truth is explained as the five holding aggregate. The five holding aggregate are matters, feeling, and so forth are sufferings. This is in the broadest sense of the word of sufferings. As I have already discussed, birth, ages, death are suffering. It is easy to accept as a worldly people. However, if we would like to talk about the five aggregate, it is not easy to accept the 5 aggregate, the holding 5 aggregate as a suffering is not easy to upset as a worldly people. Therefore, the worldly person find is difficult to see this. It's difficult to understand it. It's difficult to upset it. Therefore, the term dukkha, as reflected or depicted or appear or discussed in early Buddhist teaching, has broadest meaning, has profound meaning, or deep meaning. Okay? Do you have any questions so far?
I think, Shambhya, I think Putusin, me as a Putusin, we think
Yes.
Sukha is a piti. We think Sukha is not Dukkha. But the Buddha teaches Sukha is also Dukkha.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the Buddhist teaching observe happiness to some extent. Later on, we are going to discuss it. However, relevant to the discussion of Mr. Mr. Thomas, we can understand that to some extent the Buddhist teaching upset happiness, sukha. However, the happiness are also considered under the sense of sufferings, because they are impermanent, they are changes. Therefore, what we are going to discuss later on, the dukkha can be categorized into 3 different layers of 3 different categories. Yeah, dukkha. We are going to discuss this. Yeah, I do agree with Mr. Thomas' understanding. Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas.
Tema.
Yeah. If you have no question, let's keep on discussion, or let's continue. Continue. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. The use of the word dukkha as a noun, it has 2 different meanings. Yeah. The first one is unpleasant mental feeling. Yeah. Dukkha vedana. Dukkha vedana means the feeling of worries, the feeling of fears, the feeling of anxiety, etc. These are originally sufferings. Their natures, their characteristics, their intrusive nature is sufferings. Everyone can understand. For example, if I touch something hot and I feel hot, and then I automatically remove my hand from that element because I feel painful by touching that. Yeah, and then sometimes when we prepare for our presentation, we feel anxious. We are anxious about doing the presentation or examination or something. At the time, we are aware of that. Anxiety, anxious, or some unpleasant feeling or sufferings. It is easy to understand and it is easy to upset. Yeah. Therefore, the unpleasant mental feeling is also referred as dukkha. That dukkha is easy to understand, easy to be understood by worldly people. We also accept it as a dukkha. In this sense, the noun dukkha means mental sufferings. Therefore, the noun or the term dukkha has 2 different meanings. The first one is unpleasant mental sufferings. The worldly people can accept it easily, can understand it easily, because we experience such kind of mental sufferings. Okay, like anxiety, feeling pain, worries, and so forth. These are unpleasant mental sufferings. It is called dukkha vedana in Pali. Okay, the second sense cover an area that is more than its pure and simple fat dukkha. Yeah, if we go to the deeper level of the 10 dukkha, in Pali, it has deeper meaning. Yeah, in the second sense, it refers to pipe holding aggregate or to experience to any given time. We have pipe aggregate. The five holding aggregate themselves are sufferings. Yeah, Sanketena be Panchu Paranakanda Dukkha. Yeah, in brief, the five holding aggregate themselves are suffering. Yeah, here we need to understand that the Buddha did not explain that there is suffering into our five aggregate. But what the Buddha explained is that the holding pi aggregate themselves are sufferings. Therefore, anytime we have pi holding aggregate, therefore we are sufferings. The five holding aggregate themselves are sufferings. It does not mean that there is suffering into our pi aggregate. Okay? You get the idea? Could you follow me? Okay.
I think everybody can follow you, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thoma. Therefore, what is referred as dukkha sanya, the perception of suffering, is to this second set. Later on, we are going to discuss 6 kinds of perception. Yeah, among these 6 categories, among these 6 divisions, one is the dukkha sanya, the perception of sufferings. The perception of suffering is we perceive that everything in the world, all the conditional things are sufferings. We understand that, we realize that. If we realize in this way, sabbe sankhara dukkha, all the conditional factors are suffering. If we realize that not only the mental pain, such as anxiety, feeling pain, worry are sufferings, but also the 5 clinging aggregate, the 5 holding aggregate are also sufferings. In order to understand, we should have the perception of suffering as depicted in the Buddhist teaching. It is called dukkha sanya. Therefore, the 10 dukkha, briefly speaking, has 2 different layers or 2 different meanings. The first one is unpleasant mental sufferings. Yeah, it is called dukkha vedana. The feeling, the experience themselves are intrusively sufferings. Its nature is sufferings. It is easy to understand for worldly people. However, if we go to the 5 holding aggregate, it is not easy to understand as a worldly people. In order to understand that, we should have the perception of sufferings, dukkha sanya. If we have the perception of suffering, we understand that all the conditional packages are changing always. They are changing always. They are impermanent. They are not permanent. And then every impermanent phenomena is suffering. Because we are going to discuss that point later on. Now, hearing, what I want you to understand is that dukkha, briefly speaking, can be understood into 2 senses, 2 meanings. They are the originally or neutrally or intrinsically suffering, which is called dukkha vedana, mental pain feeling, dukkha vedana. The second one is the expedient or the 5 aggregate dances are suffering. Yeah, these are the 2 meaning of dukkha in Pali. Okay, the 2 sums of the noun dukkha comes in the following. Yeah, jati bichaya jaramarana sokhampritiwa dukkha stomanasu payasa sambhavanti ewa metasa kevalasa dukkha khandasa samuriyo hoti. This Pali stanza has been ordered in the dependent coordination. If you don't understand Pali, don't worry about that. Yeah, that is the translation. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, dukkha, and pleasant mental feelings due to somebody or some condition, grief, despair come into being. Thus, in the arising of the 4 aggregate of dukkha, the 5 holding aggregates are dukkha. If we look at or if we analyze this stanza, this Pali stanza, we can understand the 2 sense of dukkha, the 2 meaning of dukkha. The first one is we were because we were born and the condition of becoming, condition of rebirth, and we have to grow old and then we have to pass away one day. And then this process explain, or this process highlight that, oh, there is impermanence. Everything is changing. Everything is conditional package. Therefore, these are impermanence and changing, transforming, changing. Therefore, all the phenomena is not pleasurable. They are unpleasurable and they are suffering. Okay, if we look at this one, and then if we understand this one, if one of our beloved one pass away, how would it be? For example, if one of our beloved pass away because of the condition of birth, they also have to pass away. They also have to grow old. And then by seeing them or by looking at their passing away, we observe and we feel that, oh, I love them. They despair, they pass away. Because of that, I feel painful. Because of their passing away, I feel painful. In this way, we can understand 2 layers or 2 meanings of dukkha. The first one is conditional packages and impermanence and changing always. Yeah, this can be understood as 5 holding aggregate. The second one is our interpretation to that process. Yeah, if the person who passed away is our beloved one, how would you feel? How would we feel? We interpret and we feel mentally or psychologically painful. Therefore, in that process or in that stanza, we can understand 2 different meaning or sufferings, which is the psychological or mental sufferings and the existential or ontological sufferings. This is briefly exploration of suffering as debated in early Buddhist teaching of the Buddhist teacher. Okay? Yeah. Now, as Mr. Thomas already shared with us, there are 3 categories of sufferings, 3 divisions of sufferings. They are dukkha, dukkhada. The second one is sankhara, dukkhada. The last one is vibrinama, dukkhada. If you don't understand Pali, don't worry about that. Okay? The first one, dukkha, dukkhada means nothing but unpleasurableness from sufferings. Okay? This can be understood as a psychologically or emotionally unpleasurable feeling. For example, if someone hit me, I feel painful. Not only the physically, but also psychologically. Maybe I may be angry with them, or I may be painful. This is called dukkha. The nature or the intrusive natures, the characteristic of that phenomena, that feeling itself is suffering. It is called dukkha, the unpleasurableness from suffering. Okay, now we are going to discuss the second one. The second one is sankhara dukkha. This is unpleasurableness from determinants. Determinants mean condition or changing, impermanence. Because of that, suffering appears to us. That is pleasurable feeling. That is happiness. As Mr. Thomas already discussed. Sometimes we feel happy. We are happy when we eat something we like, or when we experience something we love. We are happy. However, that happiness is impermanence. The happiness is changing. Yeah, the happiness is conditional package. Therefore, we cannot experience or we cannot feel that happiness permanently, because it is impermanence. It is changing. It is temporal. Yeah. Therefore, when the happiness change from happiness to, there will be sufferings. Therefore, the sankhara dukkha, sankhara dukkha is the conditional factors. It is always changes and impermanence. Therefore, it is suffering. The last one is viprinama dukkha. The viprinama dukkha is what I mistakenly discussed. The second one. The viprinama dukkha is nothing but the unpleasurableness from change. Originally or neutrally or intrinsically, it is happiness. It is pleasurable. However, due to the change from happiness to suffering, from happiness to unsatisfaction, we feel sufferings, we feel painful. Therefore, viprinama dukkha is nothing originally, but it is originally pleasurable happiness or pleasurable emotion, pleasurable feeling. But due to the change, it is sufferings. Now, we are going to discuss these three main points into details. The first one, which is dukkha. Dukkha is the unpleasurableness, like unpleasurable feeling, painful feeling, like a worried, anxiety, sorrow, grief, and doubt or sufferings. This is the mental sufferings that is caused due to physical condition and due to the different condition. Okay, therefore, the first one, dukkha is unpleasurableness or psychological feeling due to the physical condition or due to the different situation. We feel psychologically or emotionally or mentally painful. This is called dukkha. The worldly person can perceive this type of suffering as suffering to certain extent or to some extent. We as a worldly people or as a ordinary people, we can understand and we can accept, and pleasurable feeling or mental or psychological painful is suffering. It is easy to accept it. However, if we go to the deeper level, the second one, viprinama dukkha. The viprinama dukkha is also a pleasurableness of past sufferings. However, only in relations to suffering that comes about one thing, particularly pleasurable things, change or undergo transformation. This type is also bad. Here, Vibrinamada dukkha is, as I have already discussed, neutrally or authentically, it is pleasurable. It is psychological or emotionally or mentally happiness. However, due to the changes, due to the different conditions, they are also conditional packages. Due to the different condition, the happiness change from happiness to sufferings. It is called Vibrinama Dukkha. Okay? The worldly person can perceive this type of suffering as suffering to certain extent. And then we also, as a worldly people, can understand and can accept such kind of suffering. Because we love happiness, sukha karma, we avoid dukkha partikula, we avoid sufferings. Okay, we love happiness and we avoid suffering. If the happiness changes, if the happiness change from happiness to, the phenomena change from happiness to suffering, we feel painful, we dislike, we don't like it. And then, therefore, it is also suffering. Originally or authentically, neutrally, that is pleasurable feeling. However, due to the changes or due to the transformation, this is also sufferings. This is called Vibrinama Dukkha. We, as a worldly people, can accept it, easy to accept it. Okay, the last one, which is Sankhara Dukkha. Sankhara Dukkha is the unpleasurableness of determinants. Determinants mean sankhara. Sankhara means condition, conditional package. Of the determinants are suffering. Of the conditional factors are sufferings. Sabbe sankhara dukkha. This type is perceived as suffering only by those who possesses perception of suffering, dukkha sanya. If we have no the perception of sufferings, if we have no understanding that all the conditional factors are suffering, it is not easy to accept that holding pi aggregate are suffering as a worldly people. Not easy to understand it, not easy to accept it. And then whatever is bad, that's count as suffering. Here, yeah, even though that is suffering, this may be pleasurable or unpleasurable, neither pleasurable nor unpleasurable. Any phenomena, because that phenomena is changing, that phenomena is transforming anytime. Well, therefore, all the conditional factors, all the 5 holding aggregate are sufferings. This concept or this understanding is not easy to accept by the worldly people. In order to understand, in order to accept that concept, firstly, we need to have, or we should have, the perception of sufferings. This can be understood only by the people who have the perception of suffering, dukkha sanya. Okay, that however was spoken by me only in connection with impermanence of determinants. Therefore, it covers all situations. In terms of sankhara dukkha, of the conditional factors include as the sufferings, whether they are pleasurable, unpleasurable, neither pleasurable nor unpleasurable. All the conditional factors included in the sankhara dukkha. Okay? Sankhara dukkha. One who rightly sees any experience, whether pet suffering or not as suffering. It is due to his seeing sufferings or determinants or conditional factors. If we have the perception of suffering, dukkha senya, we understand or we realize that all the conditional factors are sufferings because they are changing always. They are impermanent. Therefore, in terms of the Buddhist teaching, dukkha or suffering can be categorized into three different layers or three different categories. They are dukkha, dukkata, psychological feeling or psychological painful feeling. The second one is vibrinama dukkata. Intrinsically, neutrally, it is happiness. But due to the transformation, due to the changing, due to the impermanence, it is also suffering. The last one is sankhara dukkata, which is the understanding, which is the suffering of all conditional factors, because it's always changes and transforming. Therefore, in the context of the sankhara dukkata, of the five holding aggregate included there, it is not easy to understand, it is not easy to accept as a orderly people. Okay? So far, do you have any question? Do you understand what I explained? Are you okay?
Let me know. I have a question. One question.
Okay, Benny. Okay, Benny.
So our teachers are mentioning a lot about dukkha. So let me know. The Buddha taught the association with who is suffering, and that's association with those who one's dislike is also suffering. And which category of suffering should these forms of suffering be classified? Yeah, just yes, let me know.
Okay, I get your point and your question. Herein, we have already categorized three layers of sufferings. They are physical suffering, psychological, here. They are physical suffering, psychological suffering, and ontological sufferings. Okay? Here, you are, if I'm not mistakenly understand your question, association with the people who we don't like is also suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, it is relevant to psychological sufferings. It is our mental painfulness. This is our mental sufferings. It is originally and intrinsically and neutrally sufferings. Yeah, we don't like it. Yeah, we be painful because of that experience. We would like to live together with the people who we love. However, we have to depart. Because of that departures, because of stay away from the people who we love, we be painful. It is originally enthusiastic, authentically and neutrally mental pain or psychologically or mentally painful feeling. Therefore, it can be understood as a dukkha dukkata. Okay? Do you get the point, Pandit?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Bunny. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. And then, shall we break just for 5 minutes, just for reflection, what we have already discussed. After 5 minutes, please come back. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Kak.
Okay. See you soon.
Yeah, yes, Bunny.
See you soon, sir.
Yeah. Tampa's 2, please come back here. Are you all here? Are you coming back?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you
Yes,
very much.
yes.
Do you have any question about today's discussion? If you have anything to be share, please share or please ask any question, because if the time permits us, I would like to give the time to discuss. However, due to the limitation of the times, it is impossible to discuss here. Anyhow, I kindly invite you all to discuss or to ask any question. I will try to discuss. Okay?
Yes, sir. I have a question. Let me know. So the Buddha explains about dukkha too much. Why did the Buddha explain the two or several dukkha's in greater detail than the other three noble truths? Why?
Okay. Yeah. That question is deep. And then as much as I understand, in early Buddhist teaching, there is no much detailed exploration of suffering or dukkha. But dukkha is one of, as we have already explained, that dukkha has connotation, and that it have a deeper meaning and widest meaning. Therefore, the first one, let me give the understanding of dukkha. Of the conditional practice include in dukkha in terms of the Buddhist teaching. Yeah, sabbe sankhara. All the conditional practice included dukkha. Therefore, whatever we would like to talk about in the world, there is nothing that does not include in the dukkha. Of the conditional practice in terms of the Buddhist teaching include in dukkha. Yeah, maybe you may name anything that include in the dukkha. Okay, this is the first reason. And then the second one is that if now I'm discussing the dukkha, when we discuss the noble epopal, or when we discuss the cause or the origin of suffering, that is very interesting, and that it has very deep meaning. Therefore, actually, the four noble truths are interesting, and then should be understood as a Theravada Buddhist monks. I understand that if we look at the four noble truths into the deeper level, they have already explained, and that it has deeper meaning that we have not touched yet. Therefore, I encourage you to do research in a different area, and then to read, especially as I'm a student, or even though I'm teaching here, I'm also, you are senior, I'm at the product of our institute. I graduated at the PhD. However, I'm still learning, still reading, still doing research. Therefore, I encourage you to do research and then to read deeply, because you can read the Pali, the commentary, the self-commentary, Pali Atthakatha Tika. Therefore, if we read that deeply and profoundly, we can see what the other people, what the other scholar have not seen yet. Therefore, briefly speaking, in order to discuss your question, not only the dukkha, there are deep and profound meaning of the Four Noble Truths. This is the first one. And the second one is that of the conditional practice include in dukkha, in accordance with the Buddhist teaching. Therefore, the Buddha, the suffering or dukkha has deep and profound meaning. Additionally, in order to realize, in terms of Buddhist soteriology, in order to realize or in order to enlighten, without understanding sufferings, it is impossible to realize, to liberate, to enlighten. Therefore, suffering plays a significant role. As I have already discussed, all the Buddhist teaching as discussed or as appeared in early Buddhist teaching can be summarized into two different packages or two different elements or two different principles. They are sufferings and the cessation of sufferings. Therefore, suffering has been explored in detail. Later on, we are going to, next week, we are going to discuss Buddhist meditation. And then this also very interesting. The reason why I say that Buddhist meditation is interesting is that we generally understand the 40 meditation or just for serenity meditation practice and the insight meditation, the meditation or just for insight meditation. However, if we read the early Buddhist texts, if we read the discourses carefully and deeply and thoroughly and profoundly, we can understand that these are very interesting, and then we can see what we have not seen before. Yeah, and then we can get insightful knowledge. Therefore, I kindly encourage you all to read the early discourses carefully and thoroughly and profoundly. Are you satisfied with my discussion, Penny? I'm just a discussion. Yeah.
I'm already satisfied for your explanation.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. If you have no more question, shall we discuss? Shall we keep on discussion? Now I'm going to share. Thank you very much for all of your enthusiastic, energetic, and then you are very active. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to discuss with you all. So please feel free to discuss or ask any question. Now we are going to discuss of the feeling is not dukkha. Therefore, some people, some scholar in the field of Buddhist study misunderstand that. Yeah, the Buddhism of the Buddhist teaching is pessimistic outlook of the world, pessimistic outlook of the people. Actually, the Buddhist teaching of Buddhism is not pessimistic. Therefore, as we have already discussed, dukkha dukkha can be understood by dividing into three different categories or three different layers or three different divisions. Yeah, in that context, all the feelings are not dukkha. Okay, therefore, Buddhism of the Buddha's teaching accept happiness to some extent. However, all the feeling, because if we look at early Buddhist teaching or if we look at Bali Buddhist texts, we can see the 10 happiness, sukha vedana, the feelings of happiness. Therefore, in this context, we can understand that the Buddhist teaching accept happiness to some extent. However, yeah, all the feelings are not dukkha, but all feelings are counted as dukkha. This meaning is not the same. These meanings are not the same. Yeah, all feeling is not dukkha. Therefore, in the Buddhist teaching upset happiness or neutral feeling, ubeka vedana, neutral feeling to some extent. However, all the feelings, whether they are happiness or painful or neither pleasurable nor pleasurable feeling, any feeling are counted as dukkha. Okay, all feeling is not unpleasant. Therefore, in the Buddhist teaching, there are some pleasurable feeling, like a sukha vedana. There is unpleasant feeling that is felt as unpleasant dukkha. Yeah, so in the Buddhist teaching, as we have already discussed, there is psychologically or mentally unpleasurable feeling, which is called dukkha vedana. Dukkha vedana. There is a pleasant feeling that is felt as pleasant. So the Buddhist teaching or the Buddhism accept happiness to some extent. However, whatever kind of feeling is to be, it counts as, or it ranked, or it is considered, or it is connected, it is related with sufferings. The reason is that they are impermanent, they are conditional factors, they are changes always, they are transformation, they are transforming always. Therefore, of the conditional factors or determinants are sufferings. Therefore, of the feeling, whether they are happiness or a pleasurable or neither pleasurable nor unpleasurable, they are also counted as a dukkha. Okay? Same, the determinants or the conditional factors that determine the feeling are impermanence. The conditional factors are impermanence. The feeling that is so determined is necessarily impermanence. They are changing. They are always changes and transformings. Therefore, in Samyutta Nikaya, it is said that whatever cause or whatever condition there be for the arising of matters, feeling, perception, determination, or consciousness, that is impermanence. How can something that is originated from impermanence then be permanence? Okay, now let's see this Sutta. This Sutta talk about that of the holding of five holding aggregate are impermanence, changing, transforming always. Yeah, therefore they are sufferings, they are dukkha. If the five aggregate are conditional factors, the five holding aggregate are conditional factors. Yeah, if we consider that the current five aggregate are conditional factors and they generate or there are something which is originated from the five aggregate. The five aggregate are themselves originally sufferings. Therefore, and then they are transforming, they are changes, they are impermanence. If the impermanence then originates something, please consider that whether they are permanent or impermanent. Exactly, they are impermanent because impermanence then causes or originated. Therefore, anything that derived from conditional factors or five holding aggregate are also impermanent because they are born by the impermanence then, the conditional factors. Therefore, everything that we are experiencing, whether they are in the past or currently at the present moment or in the futures, any feeling or any experience is impermanence because they are born by impermanence or conditional practice. Therefore, the Buddhist teaching upset happiness to some extent. Yeah, therefore, all feeling is not sufferings. However, all feelings are counted as sufferings The reason is that they are conditional factors. They are changes. They are impermanence. Therefore, they are also sufferings. They are also dukkha, whether they are pleasurable feeling or neither pleasurable nor unpleasurable feelings. Actually, they are sufferings. If we experience any new things which are born by conditional factors or impermanent things, these are also impermanence. They are also conditional factors. Okay? Now, could you follow me? Sorry. Actually, here we need to understand three kinds of feeling as discussed in early Buddhist teaching or discussed in the Buddhist teaching. They are pleasant feeling, sukha vedana, unpleasant feeling, dukkha vedana, neutral or neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling, adukkha masukha vedana. Therefore, the Buddhist teaching upset or Buddhism upset happiness to some extent. However, they are conditional factors and changing always. So they are also counted as dukkha. By definition, pleasant feeling is pleasure, sukha. Unpleasant feeling is unpleasant, dukkha. Neither feeling and neither pleasure nor unpleasurable feeling is neutral and adukkha masukha vedana. Therefore, in this context, we can understand three kinds of feeling. They are sukha vedana, pleasant feeling, dukkha vedana, unpleasant feeling. Neutral feeling, which is neither pleasurable or neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling, which is called adukkha masukha vedana. Okay? The feeling felt as dukkha and the feeling counted as dukkha. These are not the same, as we have already discussed. The Buddha teaching upset sukha vedana or pleasurable feeling. However, they are also counted as dukkha. Neutrally or authentically, intrusively, they are not. The happiness or the pleasurable feeling is not suffering. However, it changes, it transforms, it impermanence, it also a conditional factors. Therefore, happy pleasurable feeling is also counted as dukkha vedana or unpleasant feeling. Neutrally or authentically, it is not unpleasant feeling, dukkha vedana. So here we need to distinguish, we need to clearly understand the differences between the feeling felt as dukkha and the feeling counted as dukkha. These meanings are not the same. In the deeper level, they have different meaning. Okay? There is unpleasant feeling that is felt as unpleasure or dukkha. We know we don't need to discuss in detail this point because it is easy to understand. There is a pleasant feeling that is felt as pleasure. However, whatever kind of feeling it counts as unpleasant or dukkha. The reason is that the determinant sankhara paccaya that determines feeling are impermanence or feeling are a nature. If the determinants that determine feelings are impermanence, the feeling that is so determined should necessarily be impermanence. As I have already discussed, the Buddhist teaching of Buddhism upset happiness. There is also obviously explained the term sukha vedana or happiness or pleasurable feeling. However, they are also counted as unpleasant feeling. The reason is that they are conditional factors. They are changes. They change always. They are transformed always. Therefore, they are also counted as dukkha. Okay? Feeling count as dukkha. Whatever is bad, that counts as pleasure or unpleasure, dukkha. Yangenchi vedayidan dan dukkhasme. All the feeling are also considered as or counted as a dukkha or unpleasurable or sufferings in terms of the Buddhist teaching. There was said in connection with the impermanence or determinants, in terms of conditional practice, the pleasurable feeling is counted as a dukkha or sufferings. Okay, therefore, this is very interesting. Happiness is or pleasurable feeling is neutrally or authentically, intrinsically pleasurable. However, the pleasurable feelings also sufferings. Therefore, suffering as depicted in the Buddhist teaching have deep and wide and profound meaning. Okay? In the Samyutta Nikaya, it is said that Sinkarana Yewa Anechadam Sandaya Basidam. Sinkarana Yewa of the conditional factors are impermanence and changing. Therefore, whether they are pleasurable or neither pleasurable nor unpleasurable, they are also counted as a sufferings. Okay, this was said in connection with the determinants or conditional beings, conditional factors. Okay, subject to destruction, kaya dhamma. Every human beings or all the conditional factors are subject to destruction, kaya dhamma. They are subject to banishing, vaya dhamma. They are subject to patent away, viraga dhamma. They are subject to cessation, nirodha dhamma. They are subject to change, viprinama dhamma. Because of that, because of these characteristics of the happiness of the pleasurable feeling are counted as a sufferings. Okay, could you follow Venerable or the participant?
Yes, Bhante, yes, we can follow. Thank you for your lesson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. Yeah. Okay, if so, let me continue. Okay, anicca, dukkha, anatta. Now, let's go in. Now we have already discussed suffering in terms of the Four Noble Truths. The meaning of suffering as depicted in the Four Noble Truths and the meaning of suffering as discussed in terms of three characteristics. Three characteristics mean nature, impermanence, dukkha, sufferings, anatta, non-self or no-self are not the same. Okay, they have different meaning. They have slightly different meaning. Okay, now we have already discussed the meaning of suffering as depicted in the Four Noble Truths, which is the first Noble Truth, the first Noble Truth. Okay, what is impermanence? That is sufferings. Okay, what is impermanence? That is suffering. Yandanesa, then dukkha. What is suffering? That is non-self. Yandukkha, that anatta. Okay, therefore, of the pleasurable feeling, of the desirable or of the sensual pleasurable feeling or of the feeling are counted as a dukkha. Okay, here, what is impermanence? That is suffering. It is not easy to upset it. It is not easy to see or realize or understand even the impermanence. For example, 10 years ago, and now, if we reflect on ourselves, we think or we generally assume that we are the same, we are not different. Unconsciously we consider that we are just permanent, or even though we mindfully, or if we are mindful about ourselves, we understand that it is impermanent. However, generally we assume that we are not changes. Therefore, even the impermanence is not easy to see or realize or understand. If we see impermanence, we see sufferings. If we see suffering, we see non-self or no-soul. What is not self, that should be seen as it really is with correct wisdom. If we would like to see that is non-self and no-soul, and then if we realize that, that conditional factor is changing always, and it's our impermanence. And then we can realize that, that impermanence thing or conditional package is changes always. Therefore, it is not pleasurable. It is unpleasurable. It is dukkha. It is sufferings. If we see that, everything is conditional factors, there is no one who is control that process, who is control that phenomena. Maybe we are angry with anyone. That is also just process, just a process, just a phenomena. They are also changes always. If we see that, if we realize that, there is no one who controls that phenomena and that process. In this way, we realize non-self and no-soul. If we realize and if we understand that process, we will not look at, or we will not assume this is mine, or this is I, or this is myself. In Pali, we will not assume, or we will not consider idam mama is loa madami is omi ada. And then on the other side, we consider that, this is not mine. This is not I. And then this is not myself. And then in Pali, nidam mama nisoa madami nidomi ada. In this way, we can realize and we can transform, we can enlighten through understanding three characteristics, of them. Realizing or understanding impermanence is very important, because if we see or if we truly understand impermanent suffering, we know that of the conditional factor is impermanence, and they change always, they transform always. If we realize that there is no self and soul, and that we don't assume it is mine, it is I, and it is myself, we realize that, this is not mine, this is not I, and this is not myself. Okay? Why is a nature that suffering? Okay? Now, let me have your discussion on this point. We normally say, or even the early Buddhist teacher explained that, what is impermanence, that is suffering. Why? Did you get my question?
I think, Shempia, I think to my knowledge, there's one sutta, I don't know where
Okay.
the Buddha explained that some punjis, they have to concentrate on anicca, 500 sangha, 500 sangha concentrate on anatta, 500 punji concentrate on dukkha. So according to the past parami, they can choose whatever they like, and they all can go to Nibbana, right?
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Thomas, thank you very much. And then now let's discuss the point. The point we know that even that Soda explained that what is impermanent, that is suffering. The reason is that impermanence and nature is something that we cannot do, that we can do nothing about it. Okay? Whether one likes it or not, whether we like it or not, they are conditional factors, and then they are changes, they are impermanence, they are transforming. Therefore, impermanence remained, whether we like it or not. We cannot control it, we cannot transform, we changes. That is impermanence neutrally, authentically. Okay? This impermanence by itself is neither a question of pleasurable nor a question of unpleasurable. Yeah, the transforming, the changing is just a phenomenon. It is the characteristic of the phenomena. Yeah, this is not pleasurable or unpleasurable. This is just a process. This is just a phenomena. However, pleasurable or unpleasurable are a question of materiality. We interpret that process. We interpret that phenomena. We interpret that characteristics. Yeah. Therefore, the unpleasant feeling, dukkha vedana, appeals to us because of our interpretation. If we understand that impermanence is just a characteristic, just a phenomena, just a natures, if we realize and if we understand that, oh, impermanence is natures. If so, the unpleasant feeling does not appear to us. If we don't interpret, and then if we look at it, or if we see that phenomena as it is, without trying to change it, and then if we realize that natures, and then we are not psychologically or mentally feeling painful about that. Yeah, here the main point that I would like to highlight are two things. The first one is that impermanent is something that we cannot do it. We cannot change it. Impermanent is its own characteristics and the characteristic of the phenomena. Yeah, whether we like it or not, we have to accept it. We cannot upset it. We don't want to upset its changes. We don't want to upset changes. Yeah, therefore, in terms of impermanence, we have nothing to do. We cannot do about it. And whether we like it or not, we have to accept it. Therefore, impermanence is suffering because we cannot do anything about it. This is one point. The second point is that impermanence is the phenomena, a phenomena, that the characteristic of a phenomena. It is changing, transforming. Actually, changing and transforming are not pleasurable feeling or unpleasurable feeling. It is just a process, but we interpret it. We interpret that process. We interpret that changes. We interpret that phenomena. And then we like or we don't like. Because of that interpretation, we feel unpleasurable pain feeling or we feel sufferings. Okay? Therefore, changing is or impermanent is not directly our psychological or mental suffering. Because of that interpretation, because of the interpretation or that transforming or changing or impermanence, we feel unpleasurable or unhappy or painful feeling. Okay? Therefore, the painful feeling or dukkha, the painful feeling and the changing are not the same. Okay, we interpret it. Because of the interpretation, we feel unhappy or painful feeling. If the conditions are anexa, the then produce is anexa. As we have already discussed, the conditionality of the phenomena, which are originally impermanent or which are neutrally or authentically impermanent, they also produce only impermanence or conditional package. Feeling also, feeling of 5 holding packages, 5 holding aggregate are impermanent. Whatever cause or whatever condition or whatever determinants there be for arises of feeling, that determinants is also impermanence. Yeah, in order to experience pleasurable feeling, there should be separate condition. If we look at the dependent co-origination, yeah, in order to arise one phenomena or one mental elements or one package, it should have separate condition. Behind that phenomena, there are separate conditions. Okay, therefore, any feeling or any experience, what we are experiencing currently, behind that, there are separate conditions or separate causes or separate determinants. Okay, Vedana anesa, your behavior, your pichaya vedanaya. In this way, you can read it. Yeah, any feeling is counted as pleasure for the reason that feeling is impermanent, because even the pleasurable feeling is counted as unpleasurable as a suffering. Therefore, the Buddhist teaching or Buddhism is not pessimistic. Yeah, if we look at that, some people may misunderstand or some scholars may misinterpret that. The Buddhist teaching look at the world or look at the people as a suffering. Therefore, the Buddhist teaching is pessimistic. They may misunderstand. However, if we look at this one deeply, we can understand that. Yeah, the Buddhist teaching is not pessimistic. The reason is that the view that any feeling counts as a pleasure is a view that is derived from right understanding and seeing the phenomena as they really are. Okay, therefore, the Buddhist teaching is not pessimistic because of the conditional factors or the determinants are changes always. Yeah, Yadanesa Dandoka. Therefore, they are sufferings because they are impermanence. They are sufferings. Okay, this is the understanding, the truly understanding of the phenomena. This is not assumption or negatively looking at that phenomena, but it is truly realizing and understanding of that phenomena. Okay, understanding unpleasant is equal to understanding the teaching. Yeah, therefore, understanding dukkha is very important. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha explained that one who sees dukkha, see also the arising of dukkha. The cessation of the arising of dukkha is samudaya disa, samudaya secca. The cessation of dukkha is nirodha secca. The path leading to the cessation of dukkha is magga secca. Therefore, if we realize dukkha or sufferings truly or authentically, rightly, we can see and understand the remaining 3 nubitus. Therefore, understanding the first nubitus, which is suffering or dukkha, is very important in the Buddhist teaching. Okay. Yeah. In the Buddhist teaching, there are 6 kinds of perception. They are sukha sinya, the perception of pleasure. Sukha is pleasure. Yeah, sinya is perception. Sukha sinya means the perception of pleasure. Dukkha sinya is the perception of unpleasure. Nesa sinya is the perception of permanence. Nesa. And anicca sinya is the perception of impermanence. These are 3 sets. And then it consists of 6 different perception. Yeah, the last set is anatta and atta sinya, the perception of self. The last one is anatta sinya, the perception of not self. Therefore, in the Buddhist teaching, there are three different sets or 6 different perception. They are sukha sinya, dukkha sinya, nesa sinya, anesa sinya, atta sinya, and anatta sinya. Okay, of them, there are 2 different approaches. The first one is subjective approach, and the second one is objective approach. The subjective experience or the subjective approach is that a subjective experience is an experience incorporating subjectivity. Subjectivity means we look at that phenomena on the basis of egocentric thinking, on the basis of I. If we see something, we don't look at or we don't see that as a process, but we assume that I see it. Yeah, I understand it. Yeah, I do it. In this way, the I or the rule of I or the egocentric consideration or egocentric thinking involved in that process, in that situation. It is called subjective experience. They don't look at that phenomena as it is. They assume them as mind things or mind or they involve themselves in that process. Yeah, therefore they assume and they consider that, oh, I see, I do. Yeah. The subjectivity is the presence of a theme taken as myself other. Yeah, they assume that thing or they look at that phenomena and then they interpret it as I see it. Yeah, that is mine. Yeah, that is belong to my beloved one. In this way, they interpret it. It is called subjective experience. Okay, subjective approach. It is tied up structurally with the perception of permanence, nesa thinya, perception of pleasure, sukha thinya. If one falls, the others two also fall along with it. If I involve in that process on the basis of egocentric thinking or on the basis of I-centric thinking, and then I think, oh, that is pleasurable, sukha sinya. And then, oh, that is I, that is mine, or atta sinya. Therefore, among the 6 perception, sukha sinya, nesa sinya, and atta sinya are connected to each other. Okay? Connected to each other. The thing that is taken as myself is or oneself is always an experience conceived as I am mine. Yeah, they conceive or they assume that is mine or they involve the rule of the I there. Because of that, they think, oh, that is pleasurable. That is self, that is soul. They don't perceive them as impermanent, sufferings, and non-self or no soul. Okay, this is called subjective experience or subjective approach to phenomena or the process. Okay. And then one, the perception of dukkha is present. The perception of nature also present. Yeah, they look at or they see, we see that phenomena as a atta or as a soul. In this way, we think that, oh, that is happiness. That is happiness. This subjective experience lasts only for so long as the possession of pleasure. If that experience is pleasure, oh, this they consider that it is right. Oh, my view, my understanding is correct. However, if that pleasurable feeling changes to unpleasurable feeling, they may interpret this, therefore, they cannot accept that phenomena as it is, as they are. Therefore, they suffer a lot because of that perception. However, the perception of pleasure, sukha sanya, is there only for so long as myself is perceived as permanent. If we involve in that phenomena, process, or situation on the basis of ego-centric thinking or on the basis of egocentric thinking, and then we see that as a permanent thing, we don't think or we don't realize they are permanent, they are impermanent. We consider or we interpret them as a permanent. Okay? That means the perception of permanence, nesa sanya, must also be present in the structure of that experience. Because of that subjective experience or subjective approach, we consider that it is pleasure, it is permanence, it is mine and myself. Yeah, these perceptions are called sukha sanya, atta sanya, sukha sanya, atta sanya, nesa sanya. They misunderstood, they misinterpret. If atta is to be seen as a sukha, and then it must not be seen as a nesa. If we look at that phenomena, if we misunderstand that phenomena as atta and sukha, yeah, the nature or the impermanence does not come to them because they assume that process as a permanent. Therefore, they don't realize that it is impermanence. If myself or the things taken as myself is to be pleasurable, it must not be seen as a suggested to passing away. Vayadhamma. They think these phenomena will not pass away. Vayadhamma. Will not disappear, will not vanish. Therefore, they crave for that. They cling to that phenomena and that process. Because of that feeling, what happens to us? We suffer a lot. Okay? What feels most painful to the mistaken idea of myself is the fear that I will pass away. The feeling most painful to the mistake of that idea of myself. We assume and we look at that phenomena on the basis of our central thinking. Therefore, that we are fear of losing that. We are afraid of losing that. Okay? If what I call myself is seen as something that will inevitably end and become nothing, and then how can it ever be a true source of pleasure? Therefore, if we look at the process of that phenomena as a permanent things, or as if we approach and look at that thing on the basis of I-central or egocentric thinking, we consider them as a happiness as a self, and then we think they will not pass away. They were not losing, they were not banished. And then we are afraid of losing that. We are afraid of banishing that. And then we cling to them tightly. We don't want to lose them. Therefore, we suffer a lot. When that phenomena happened, or that phenomena occurs neutrally or authentically, because they are impermanence, they are changing. They change always. However, we cling to that. We are stuck into that process and that situation. By assumption that, by means of assumption that they are permanent, they are pleasurable, they are self, they are mine. And then this is a process, but we are stuck into that process, and then we cling to that process. Because of that, we suffer a lot. We don't understand, we don't realize that phenomena as it is, but we misinterpret, we misunderstand. Okay, therefore, the Buddhist teaching is not pessimistic, but understanding the phenomena as it is, realizing that phenomena as it is, but not mistakenly or wrongly interpreting that phenomena. Okay? Time is already passed. Time is already over. Okay? If you have any question, please ask me. If you read this one, you can understand it. For this time, there is no deep Pali and interpretation. But next week, I will briefly explain this point. Okay? And then if you have time, please read and then bring any question to next week lectures. Next week, we are going to discuss meditation practice as depicted in early Buddhism and Theravada Pali Buddhist texts or ecclesiastical literatures. Do you have any question about today's lectures?
No questions, sir.
No question. Okay, I will share today PowerPoint slide and the relevant materials or relevant sources. Okay, and then please read these articles that article and books. Yeah, I will exactly mention the page number that you have to read it, that you should read it in order to understand the scholarly interpretation of sufferings. And then please bring any question next week, our next week discussion. Any questions so far? If you don't have any question, thank you very much for your authentic and genetic participation and discussion here. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. See you.
Thank you, sir.